All right, so you've been looking into braiding textile technicians. Lots to unpack there, huh?
It's a pretty specialized field.
Yeah, and we've got your stack of research right here, career guides, industry reports, even interview tips, all that good stuff. And we're going to try to break it all down for you, see if this career path is the right fit.
Right, because it really seems like you're trying to figure out if this is like the dream job or not.
Exactly. And from what I'm seeing, it's not just about braiding, which is, I guess, obvious, but
Yeah, it's way more than just braiding.
right. Like these technicians are basically textile engineers.
That's a good way to put it. They need to be able to choose the right materials, calibrate these like really complex machines.
And make sure everything runs smoothly, that the threads all come together perfectly. It's pretty high tech.
Yeah, one of your sources, the Textile Technicians Handbook, that one really goes deep on all that. Like it even gets into weft preparation technologies.
Weft? Oh, okay, see, that's a term I need to learn. What even?
Basically, it's how the yarns are prepped and fed into the braiding machine.
Oh, okay. To make those specific patterns and textures.
Precisely.
So fascinating. So where do these technicians usually work? What's the typical work environment like?
Well, you'll find some in like smaller workshops and ateliers, but honestly, most braiding textile technicians work in manufacturing plants.
Ah, okay, so we're talking large-scale production. Probably not the quietest of workplaces.
Probably not. Think like specialized machinery, a real focus on efficiency. It can be pretty demanding.
Okay, that's good to know. But that makes me wonder, what's the appeal? Why would someone want to work in that kind of environment? What excites people about this job?
I think it's the combination of hands-on work and problem solving that really draws people in.
That makes sense. You're not just pushing buttons all day. You're like troubleshooting, adjusting, really making sure things run smoothly.
Yeah. And then there's the satisfaction of seeing these intricate designs come to life.
Right, and speaking of those designs, this isn't just about aesthetics, right? This work has a pretty significant impact on the world.
Absolutely. One of your articles highlighted how important braided textiles are.
Oh yeah, like what?
Everything, really. I mean, they're in aerospace components, medical devices,
Wow.
high-performance athletic wear, even parts for electric vehicles. It's incredible. We're talking about creating durable, functional materials that are essential across industries.
So it's not just about fashion, even though that's part of it.
Right. It's much bigger than that.
Wow, that is so cool. But okay, we've been talking about all the cool stuff.
Mm.
But we need to be realistic, right?
Hmm.
For someone who's actually thinking about this as their career, we need to talk about both the good and the bad.
For sure. I mean, it's not always glamorous, that's for sure.
Right. So what are some of the challenges someone might face in this line of work?
Well, the Textile Technicians Handbook, the one you've got there, it's really honest about that stuff. It can be really physically demanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're often standing for long hours, lifting heavy materials.
All right.
And then there's the noise from the machinery, which can be a lot, especially in those big plants.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And especially when you're first starting out, there can be a lot of repetitive tasks.
So it's not always super exciting, high-level design work right off the bat.
Exactly.
That's good to keep in mind. What else? What other challenges should someone be prepared for?
Well, and this is a big one, the potential for job insecurity in some parts of the textile industry.
Oh, right, because a lot of textile manufacturing is moved overseas.
Exactly. And while some areas like high-performance textiles, those are growing, others like traditional garment manufacturing, they're facing some tough times.
So it's not all sunshine and roses.
Right. It's really important to be aware of that going in.
Absolutely. So for someone who's really drawn to this kind of work, are there things they can do to like minimize that risk, build a career that's more, I don't know, secure?
Yeah, definitely. That's where continuous learning comes in and specialization.
Okay, I like that. So what, like taking more courses, getting certifications, that sort of thing?
Exactly. Your research mentions certifications in specific braiding technologies, and that's huge.
Makes sense. The more specialized your skills, the more valuable you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And staying updated on industry trends that never hurts either.
Right, because the textile industry is always evolving with
Mm.
new technologies and everything.
Exactly.
So it's really about staying ahead of the curve.
Yeah, being proactive, making yourself as adaptable as possible.
Right. And speaking of being proactive, there's usually a pretty clear career path for braiding textile technicians, right?
Absolutely. You've got some great info here about the typical stages, from entry level all the way up to senior positions.
Yeah, we keep seeing these stages mentioned in pretty much every career guide.
And it makes sense when you think about it. You start with the basics and work your way up.
Right, like climbing a ladder, I guess.
Exactly. So at the entry level, it's all about mastering the fundamentals, learning how to operate the machines, different braiding techniques, making sure the quality is good, all that essential stuff.
Yeah. And those example profiles you found, those are really helpful for seeing what that actually looks like day to day.
They're so useful. Like I've got one right here. It says this entry-level technician, they started by assisting the more experienced operators. Like loading materials, observing the braiding process, stuff like that.
So starting slow, getting a feel for how things work.
Yeah. And eventually, this person was setting up simpler machines on their own and even troubleshooting minor issues.
Oh, cool. So there's definitely room to grow even at that entry level.
Totally. It's all about building those skills and gaining confidence.
Makes sense. So what about those junior level roles? What happens when someone's ready to move up?
That's when the real problem solving kicks in, I think.
Oh, yeah. Like what kind of problems?
Well, now you're not just following instructions, you're having to think on your feet a bit more. Like junior technicians might be tasked with setting up more complex braiding patterns, adjusting the machines to get specific fabric properties, that sort of thing.
So it's more like independent work.
Definitely. And I see here one guide mentions that junior technicians often get to work on a wider variety of projects.
Which is awesome if you get bored easily.
Totally. It keeps things interesting, and it helps
Yeah.
you develop a broader skill set, which is never a bad thing.
Not at all. So that naturally leads us to those senior technician roles.
Yeah.
Those are usually the ones that, people aspire to.
Totally, yeah.
So what does it take to reach that level? What
Yeah.
sets someone apart as a senior braiding textile technician?
It's like a perfect storm of like technical mastery and leadership, and a deep understanding of like the industry as a whole.
I'm imagining like someone who's seen it all, done it all.
Yeah, pretty much. They might be overseeing entire production lines, training new staff, maybe even working with designers or engineers on new products.
Oh, so it becomes about so much more than just the technical side of things.
Exactly. You're not just a technician anymore. You're a leader, an innovator, shaping the future of like textile manufacturing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
And one thing that really struck me was the emphasis on creativity and innovation, even at that senior level.
It's not just a factory job, There's real artistry involved.
Absolutely. And that must be so rewarding to see your ideas come to life like that.
I bet. It's like you're not just replicating existing designs, you're actually pushing the boundaries, experimenting with new materials, new techniques, coming up with like completely new ways to use braiding.
It sounds like a really exciting field to be in, especially with all the new technologies and innovations happening all the time.
Oh, for sure. And that's something to keep in mind no matter what stage of your career you're at. You got to stay curious,
Always be learning.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about those different stages, from starting out on the factory floor to like potentially leading the charge in textile innovation. It's pretty amazing.
It is, yeah.
But let's get down to brass tacks here. For someone who's listening to this and thinking, okay, this sounds cool, but where do I even begin? What are some concrete steps they can take to start building a successful career in this field?
Hands-on experience. That's the biggest one. You got to get your hands dirty, literally.
So internships, apprenticeships, anything that gets you experience with the actual machines and processes.
Exactly. That's going to make you stand out way more than like just having a degree.
Experience over theory, especially in a field like this, right?
100%. And don't be afraid to network.
Yeah, put yourself out there. How can someone go about doing that, specifically within this industry?
Join some professional organizations, go to industry events. Those are great ways to meet people, learn about job openings, and just like stay in the loop about what's happening.
Yeah, make those connections.
Exactly.
Okay. And then when you are ready to apply for jobs, what about those applications and interviews? You had some great tips in your stack about like making a strong first impression.
Oh, yeah. One thing that really stood out to me was the importance of actually quantifying your experience.
Quantifying. What do you mean by that?
So instead of just listing, operated braiding machines on your resume, say something like increased production efficiency by 15% by implementing a new threading technique.
Ooh, I like that. So it's about being specific, showing concrete results.
Exactly. Numbers speak volumes,
They do. And then for the interviews themselves, I imagine practice makes perfect, right?
Definitely.
Right.
Practice those common interview questions, like, tell me about yourself. Why are you interested in this field? All that jazz.
Right, the classics.
Exactly. But honestly, beyond that, it's all about conveying your enthusiasm, your genuine passion for this,
Let that passion shine through. Okay, we've covered so much ground already, from the nitty-gritty of weft preparation to the potential for career growth and those all-important job hunting tips. It's been a whirlwind.
It has, but we did skip over one important thing.
Oh, like what?
The salary.
Oh, right. Of course everyone wants to know how much they can make.
Right, and honestly, it can be tricky to give, like, hard and fast
Because
numbers.
it varies so much depending on experience and location and all that.
Exactly. But we do have some data here from the Bureau of Labor
Okay,
Statistics.
let's hear it.
So it says here that the median annual wage for textile machine setters and setup operators, which includes braiding textile technicians, was around $45,000.
Okay, so that's like the middle ground.
Exactly. Some people make more, some make less.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that affect how much someone can make?
Well, experience is a big one, obviously.
Right. The more experience you have, the more you can ask for.
Yep. And then location matters too. Like big cities tend to pay more.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Cost of living and all that.
What else?
Specialization.
Right. If you have those in-demand skills.
You can definitely command a higher
Mm.
salary, especially in those emerging fields we were talking about earlier, like those high-tech fabrics and stuff. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So starting around that 45,000 mark, but with potential to earn more as you gain experience, specialize, move up the ranks.
Exactly. And don't forget about benefits. Overtime pay, those can add up too.
Right. Good point. Okay, I'm feeling much more informed now. We've covered a ton of ground about braiding textile technicians.
We really have. It's been like a crash course in braiding.
It really has. We talked about what they do, where they work, the challenges they face, the skills they need to succeed. We even got into the nitty-gritty of weft preparation technologies.
Don't forget the salary.
Right, of course, we covered that too.
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, I think we've given our listener a much clearer picture of what this career path actually looks like so they can decide if it's the right fit for them.
That's what it's all about, making informed decisions. So, listener, if you're still with us, we hope this deep dive has been helpful.
Maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Because who knows, maybe you'll be the one inventing the next generation of like super strong, super lightweight fabrics that end up on spaceships or something.
Okay, now that's a thought.
Right. The possibilities are endless.
The future of textiles. That's a wrap on our deep dive into the world of braiding textile technicians. Until next time.